Ready or not, here we come.
I got a big hike planned for us tomorrow.
Can we just do some fun indoor activities?
Yeah, like drinking.
Is this still even a trail?
Wow.
How far down do you think that goes?
I don't know.
Gives me the creeps.
Let's go.
Hi, Roxanne. How are you doing? Nice to speak to you.
You too. I'm doing great.
Well, you should be, because you should be well proud of the film. It's fantastic. I watched it again last night. It's it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm curious,
good.
because this is it's a Blumhouse Paramount Epics amalgamation. How did this kind of come to fruition? Was that something that you filmed previously and that kind of eventually became part of this deal, or was that something that they sealed this deal and then they brought this project to you? How did it come about?
Yeah, it was brought to me through, I think I talked to that department, it's on the TV side, about doing another movie, and it didn't work out. And then, they kind of got a sense from that of like what I was interested in, that I like shooting outdoors, that I like, the things that I like about horror. And so they were like, well, we have this other one. Let's send you, let's give it a read and see what you think. And it was in a completely different vein from the thing that we were looking at. And I was like, oh, this is so up my alley, because it's people outside and it's evil kids, which is, I don't get a lot of scripts that are kind of fun in that genre. I get a lot I get sent a lot of scripts that are about like motherhood, which I'm just like, not, and like pregnancy horror, which I'm like, I don't, not interesting to me. So something that was about like kind of parents' relationships of people who have kids and people who don't, and just kind of like the horror that could ensue from like losing your friend's kids is like such a great premise to me. So that was really interesting. And then kind of developing the relationships between the adults and making it more almost like, the name of the movie going in, what you're in for. So it kind of gives you some time to like chill out and like almost feel like you're in a different movie in the beginning before shit hits the fan, because that that's already going to happen. So I feel like it gives you some leeway in a way to kind of expand and play with the characters and their dynamics ahead of time, which hopefully makes the end of the movie and like the rest of the movie more poignant, because then you kind of really sat with these characters and like gotten to know them along the way.
Yeah. I mean, that was why I really enjoyed it, because I mean, there's a deluge of films of these creepy killer kids. Now, I mean, I was thinking of things before, like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, Who Can Kill a Child. There's so many. So what was it about this specific script that you read it? You're like, yeah, this one could work, because it's not the same as this crowded, all the other things that we've seen in this crowded subgenre before, no?
I think it's that. It's that you're spending so much time with like the adults, and it's less about the kids so much. And then that it's you've got an unreliable narrator that kind of flips the trope to where you've got like a male unreliable narrator who's going through the like typical horror tropes that a female unreliable narrator goes through. Like that was interesting to me. And also just the challenge of changing your point of view character halfway through a movie. It's not something I had done before. So that's, it's kind of like how they say certain scripts are like actor catnip. I feel like that's kind of like director catnip.
I mean, you said there that you'd had scripts about kind of motherhood and these kind of things, and you weren't really interested in that kind of stuff. It kind of turns people off having kids. Thankfully, I've had 2 kids already, so it didn't turn me off. But I mean, this kind of really does it tells you the pros and the no-nos of kind of going into parenthood, no? So what was it about this specific, I mean, you said that you didn't want to talk about motherhood in movies particularly, but what was it about kind of the themes? Because we do tackle themes here about, especially kind of one of the couples who haven't had kids yet, without giving anything else away, that they discuss, and it's kind of a meditation on the pros and cons, of parenthood. What was it about this specific themes that you thought this would work compared to these scripts that you said about motherhood that you weren't really kind of interested in portraying on the screen?
That was something I really wanted to push in the story, because I feel like there's a lot of like stories of like women who want children and want like their partner to have kids or whatever, and it's not really like scene of like you don't really see stories of like women who don't necessarily want to have kids, and like having to have that conversation and seeing like just checking in and see if you're on the same page is not something I had really seen before. And also just the sense that like once your friends have kids, they all kind of like are like, join us, like join our cult. So like once you get to a certain age, it's like when all of your friends start getting married and having kids, there's this pressure for like you to also do that. And like that
jump
kind
on
of
the bandwagon,
pressure was something that like I really wanted to play with that kind of with two couples, and especially in Amanda and Alicia's relationship, the two, you know, the mom and the no mom, not mom, that they were these best friends and how their relationship had changed. And then, and also like ways that like they hadn't changed, you know, that like this couple who had the kids were still just kind of like, you know, Peter Pan parents that like were trying to live like they were in their 20s. You know, but also that they still had like their own lives and stuff. Just because they had kids didn't mean it stopped. So it kind of gives you both of those perspectives of like, you're still a person, like you still have your own wants and needs and everything when you have kids, but also like how that might look to someone who doesn't, and like what the changes in the dynamics between those two friends might be. It was like something I really kind of wanted to dig into with the actors, like throughout the script and throughout the story. And hopefully that drives some of Alicia's actions towards the end of the film, and why she like stands up you know, against them because of like kind of what they've done, and seeing like, you know, how her friend what has happened to her friend because of it.
And you got a great cast there. I mean, obviously some of them are really familiar faces, especially kind of in the genre, you know, like we see Midnight Mass and things like that. So some of these are really kind of familiar faces. Did you get a chance once they were on board to kind of really pick their brains and kind of go back and forth with them to kind of choose the kind of pros and no-nos, kind of what they wanted to talk about when it came to parenthood? Was any of that kind of off the cuff, or did they kind of come up with ideas that they wanted to change a little bit the script maybe to make it more, to resonate more with them?
Not really, because our only parent that we had is Zach.
Right.
Nobody else is a parent of the adults, so that was kind of fun, you know. But they've all worked with kids pretty extensively, like throughout their careers as actors. So in that regard, it was kind of like interesting to see like those dynamics. But when it came to those relationships and within the character, not so much. We would talk about it in terms of like the development of the character, what their motivations might be, but not in a way that necessarily like changed the scenes or changed like the direction of the story as much. I feel like I do that a lot more. Like I tend to work with actors at a very early stage in development when I'm writing, but since I came onto this like later,
right,
a lot of the DNA is already there. So yeah, there aren't really that many changes once you get to your like production draft.
And then what about in terms of the fantastic kids, Brielia and is it David or David? They're
David.
fantastic, but obviously coming into a film, kind of this horror film about creepy kids, were there any kind of pointers that you gave them, or any specific films maybe to kind of give them an idea of the vibe you were going for? Did you just kind of give them a leash to play around with the characters that they were given?
I mean, they had so much fun. They had so much fun with like the evil stuff, honestly. Like that was their favorite bits. Which I get. I feel like as a kid, it's like when, you know, you're playing make-believe so much, it's always fun to do that kind of stuff. And like something that feels almost cartoony in a way, or is very like kind of cut and dry, like that is like, oh, now you're just playing the bad guy, you know? And it's like cops and robbers, like we just know how to do that as kids for whatever reason. And there weren't really any movies that I referenced for them. It was more of like relationships, you know, like he's like your little brother that you're like messing with and you don't want your parents to know.
Right.
And that's it.
Exactly that.
So like, exactly, and it's like immediately they're like, oh, you know, and it's like the sitting in the back of the car and like fucking with your brother, and like your parents are like, you know, until they like freak out, and then your parents are like yelling at them, and you're like, because we're all evil when we're kids. That's what it comes down to. Like it's that kind of sibling dynamic, and they're just treating Zach like he's another sibling.
Yeah. Well, listen, sadly they give me the rap. So thanks very much for speaking to me. I love the film to bits. I can't wait for people to see it, and I hope to speak to you again sometime soon, because I believe you are, if IMDb's correct, you've got another film coming soon, which is a remake of a Spanish movie. No, is that still going ahead?
Not very soon. Yeah, not soon, but yeah, that's still kind of in the works.
Still on the cards. No?
Yeah,
brilliant. Well, I can't wait to see that, and hopefully I'll get to speak to you about that sometime soon. All right, all the best, and best of luck with the film.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Ready or not, here we come. We want to play with you now.